All right. Hi everyone and welcome to our live stream today. We're going to be trying to restore this 14-year-old desktop. It's a gaming system that was used about 14 years ago and then it sat in a warehouse. And the customer just wanted to see if maybe we could get it back up and working so either they can use it or a family member can use it. So what we're going to do is today we're going to go through, figure out why the system is not turning on. And if you saw my most recent video, there's definitely an issue with the power supply. We can know that right off the bat based on some of the sounds it was making. It had a really loud whining noise. So we're going to be trying to figure out what's going on there. I also spotted some signs of water damage, so we're going to be looking at that and see if we can get the system back up and running, at the cheapest way possible, just to go ahead and get this system up and working. They just need it to be a basic workstation. It doesn't need to be anything for gaming, so we'll probably take out these dual GPUs. There's a bunch of different things we can do, but I just want to let you know what we're working on here today, and we're going to go ahead and jump into it in just a second. If you guys have any questions or anything, let me know. But before we do anything, we'll run over some of the things I do know about this system. So I am assuming it's about 14 years old based on the motherboard I looked up, because I think it's LGA 775, which is about 14 years old, 2009 time frame. Same thing with the graphics cards, they're about 2009. These are, I believe, Radeon HD 5770s in Crossfire. So this was definitely a high-end system at its time. And then there's also the power supply down here, which is modular. We're gonna have to look at that in a little bit, figure out what's going on there. I'm assuming it's just not working properly based on the noises it's making. And we can try to get that swapped out. It's also got Velociraptor drives, which is kind of surprising to me to see. So, those were really high RPM hard drives before SSDs became kind of like the main option for fast storage. So that's what we got going on there. And we got those iconic Zalman cooler that, they're just so popular at this time. And then we're in a Cooler Master half. So this was a nice big case that came out around the same time frame. So this was a really high-end system at the time of launch, but it's definitely hasn't been used in quite some time. And from what I said, it's been in kind of like a warehouse garage environment for a while. So that's what our plan today. Let's see if we can get this working. So the first thing I wanted to show you guys, based on what I saw earlier and I showed off in the video, was if I just flip on this power supply, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but there's a really, really high-pitched noise coming out of the power supply as soon as it turns on. It's typically going to be some kind of issue with like a capacitor inside or something blown inside. I wouldn't be surprised with how old this is, and it's not a main brand power supply from what I can tell. I didn't recognize the actual power supply. And usually you can with the manufacturer. So I'll have to kind of take it out to go ahead and verify, but definitely looks like we're dealing with a bad power supply based on the noise that's coming from there. And it's clearly coming from the power supply and nowhere else. So I am happy with that because that is one of the easier things to replace in the system if we do need to replace some stuff. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this system over. We're going to lay it down flat so we can look things over from the top down view. Let me go ahead and switch that over. And if you guys have any questions or you have any suggestions, things to try, let me know in the comments, and we'll go ahead and go from there. So a couple of things I wanted to run over with you guys right off the bat is I did notice liquid damage. So I don't know if you can tell that, but there is a clear, let me see if I can hold this up easily. There's a clear discoloration on the RAM modules, and there's a little bit of moisture I can kind of see, or something sitting. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, it is really loud. It's very, very annoying. So that's definitely bad. But yeah, so there's some moisture sitting here that could have killed the power supply. What I'm thinking we're going to do is kind of strip down the system, kind of clean things up. And then once we have that cleaned up, we can kind of go from there. So to clean things up, I'm going to take out these RAM modules. And then we'll go ahead and probably take out these graphics cards as well, because we're just not going to need both of them. I'm assuming it's just not going to be practical to run Crossfire for something that's just going to be web browsing. So let's go ahead and, and I'll show you if I do try to turn the system on. Beware of your hearing. This is turning back on. if I do try to press the power button, nothing. So that's going on there. So yeah, let's go ahead and let's take out some of the stuff that does look to have some kind of moisture damage. And then once we have that out, we can try to clean things off and go from there. So we're going to take out these RAM modules just because this one actually probably looks the best. And we'll probably just boot with a single stick. These are 2 GB sticks of DDR2. Or DDR3 actually, so we'll actually have some replacement RAM if we need it. This is not as old as I thought it was, which is actually good. Maybe this is a little newer. But this one, look at that. You can see there is something was spilt on it, definitely. So that one we're not going to want to use. And probably not this one either. That one's pretty dirty too. So yeah, look at that. It's pretty filthy. Looks like something got spilled. And if you look on the actual slot here, there are some, let's see, maybe how is the best way to do this? Yeah, down here, there's a bunch of damage. There's definitely signs of moisture there. Yeah, it's kind of a cool looking power supply, like the design and everything, but it is not great. So what I'm going to do here is let's just take some isopropyl alcohol and try to clean up some of that, gunk that's kind of built up from that residue. So what I'm going to do, just take some 91% isopropyl alcohol and some kind of cloth. These are shop towels I like using often. And what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to take my finger and kind of run it over those areas that are that seem to be a little more dirty than the others. Alright, so that's a little bit off. Did it a little bit before it ripped, so it definitely is coming off. So let me grab a little more alcohol, put on another part of it, and then let me see if I can rotate this. It'll be easier for both me and you guys to see. And try to clean this up. This first GPU definitely has a good amount of moisture on it. I do not feel comfortable probably running that. So what I probably will do is just use that second one because that one was probably protected, because I do think the moisture came in from the top. So it typically does. Yeah, it's a little bit. This is usually when you have some kind of sugary, either sugary beverage usually gets on it. You kind of get this weird brown coloring. I mean, I might have to take that GPU out to really get it clean. And let me grab this a little more. And I might not even use those slots of RAM, at least for the initial testing. So let me go ahead. Let's take out these graphics cards as well, or at least this first graphics card, and then kind of assess the situation from there. And we're gonna have to pull that power supply. I'll probably just plug in a separate power supply first, and we'll go from there. All right, so give me 1 second. Let me go ahead and grab my screwdriver. And the reason I have it sideways like this, it's just a little easier to show some of the internal components. So we're just going to need PH1, and we can go ahead and actually we can pull off this crossfire connector. Haven't seen one of those in a long time, especially because crossfire, actually we need PH2, I forgot. The thing with crossfire is that when it was enabled at first, you did have to use a cable, but then eventually that just ran directly through the motherboard and PCIe. So from how often I've ever seen crossfire with the cable is very, very rare. SLI on the other hand, even though it's pretty much extinct these days, I do still have people bring in systems that have crossfire in 970s or something like that. Kind of that last generation where it was actually value-wise, SLI made sense. So let's go ahead and pull these out. All right, so we're gonna need to unplug these either way. And I think there's just a little latch at the bottom. Yep, there we go. And we'll pop this card out. And this is what I was talking about. You see that discoloration? Hopefully you guys can see that. There's some clear discoloration. Quick question. Was a good Wi-Fi card for an Asus Prime Z690A? you know, pretty much anything. I have one here. This is an AXE 5400. This is both Bluetooth and Wi-Fi 6E, so it's gonna be really fast. These aren't too expensive. These are from TP-Link. But yeah, this is probably what you're looking for. That's gonna be still very fast and give you all the kind of capabilities that you may want. So yeah, there's definitely more liquid right there. So let's take this other card and hopefully we can. Look how cool this Intel logo is actually. that's actually a pretty cool Intel logo. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's like a skull with the Intel logo. I've never seen that. Yeah, so it's Wi-Fi and Bluetooth on the same card. So this one, it's a little bit of signs of possible liquid on it. You know, these are a little sticky. Yep, there is a little moisture there. Oh, and I can see some more right that was under it. So that may not be an option either to be used, but we'll see. So let's get this kind of cleaned off. We can go ahead and just put a little alcohol on it. And just, there we go. What I'm gonna do is, as I kind of let that sit for a second, I'm then gonna go ahead and go in again, same kind of shop towel, and I'm just gonna let that pull up anything that broke down. You guys can see it actually picks up quite a bit, and you can see it actually cleans it quite well doing it this way, just because it can sometimes waste the alcohol, but when you're trying to get something clean like this, just for, you know, the sake of it, you kind of have to. There you go. So that looks much better, and these right here are pretty filthy. There we go. I'm just trying to make sure that the most of the board gets cleaned up, because that's going to be kind of the most concerning aspect about turning the system back on. So this part right here is pretty kind of gross right there. I'm going to put a little more alcohol right there. And we're going to, the nice thing about isopropyl alcohol is it's not, you're going to be safe because it is going to dry before anything turns on. So it's going to kind of loosen some of the stuff up, while at the same time giving you some of the benefits of being able to get the thing cleaned up. Yeah, I think it's AXE 5400 from TP-Link. Let's see. Get as much of this off as I can. It might not be possible to get it all off, but just trying to get it clean as possible. Yeah, so it's just, the system's kind of just a little dirty with the moisture that got in. So that part looks a lot better than it was, which I am happy about. These aren't sticky or anything anymore. That's usually a good sign that we were able to clear up a lot of it. So what I'd like to do at this point is disconnect the old power supply, bring in a spare graphics card, and kind of just fire the system up as a quick test boot. See if the system will fire up with a different graphics card, just because I know this power supply is bad based on the noise it's making. Concerned with the amount of moisture that was on these cards, you know, was kind of concerning that might be an issue. So let me go ahead, and we'll also probably put one RAM module on this slot here. Hopefully that doesn't cause any issues with just boot up. I just need to get to the BIOS. Not really worried about anything else. I don't need any drives connected. I just want to see the system come to life, and then we can assess from there what are we going to actually change, and that'll be something I'll probably have to go back and forth with the customer. So let me grab a card that works. So we can just grab this I have here. So this is just a 1050 Ti. It has a single 6-pin, so we'll just use this for the graphics card. And then I will grab a power supply. Here's my tried and true EVGA 750 B5 that you guys have probably seen in so many of my videos if you guys have been following along for a while. But I use that power supply for like pretty much every test bench, every system I'm just working with, because I know it works. It's reliable. I haven't had any issues with it. And let's see, can we get this guy out? This 24 pin's quite tight there. Let me just adjust you guys. All right, perfect. So for this one, we're just gonna need 24 pin. Is gonna go straight down and in. And then we're gonna need a 4-pin CPU connector. Should be right here. And it should be this one here. And I believe, if I'm looking right, it's gonna go straight down and into the connector there. So, might have to be it's a little hard not to see this, but yeah, I'm in. And just pop that down. All right, so we are connected there. I'm curious if the system will fire up. I don't need a GPU. I don't need display out. I just want to see if the system will even fire up. We're getting fans to spin, anything like that. Let's go ahead and double check. All right, we're gonna go ahead and try firing this up for first time. And we're not getting anything. Oh, we're getting power LED there. But we're not getting anything on the motherboard. So that power LED tells me that we're getting power on the board, but nothing is turning on. So I'm assuming, let's just disconnect the front panels and we'll try to manually start it up. This is something you want to do just because sometimes these connectors can be a little finicky, and even though if it was connected for a long time, you never know. So let's go ahead, and the power button is the red 2, and we're getting nothing. So that's not good there. All right. So let me just make sure we're plugged in everywhere. And this guy back here is nice and plugged, nice and secure. And let me go ahead and just switch over to slot 2, even though I didn't really want to have to do it, and the system should be able to start up without the RAM working. Oh, we need to try to do the short. All right, and nothing there. So we're still not getting anything out of the system from starting up. And my main concern is it is a board issue on top of the power supply that wasn't functioning properly. So let me go ahead and just make sure we're not missing anything. We shouldn't need anything else. Just go ahead and turn this guy on. And let's plug that back in one more time, just in case something is a little loose. All right. One more time. And we'll go ahead and try to go short these 2 pins. We're still not getting anything out of this system here. Let me go ahead and just reseat the CMOS battery just in case that's causing it. Let me go ahead and grab something to do that. I'm just gonna go ahead and, ooh, it's kind of sticky. Let me grab that. Looks to be in all right shape. Let me go ahead and pull out my battery tester, which is something I love using for these circumstances. So I can go ahead and put the button battery in. It's dead. I kind of assume that the system hasn't been on. But yeah, so it's completely dead. That's what this little thing indicates here. So we can try swapping that out. Let me see if I have a CR2032 without having to open up a whole new pack of them. So I do have one here. Let me go ahead and let's throw that in there. Actually, you know what? I have one I just brought back. There we go. All right, found one. Perfect. So let's go ahead and throw that in. Really shouldn't prevent the system from starting up, but you never know. All right, let's go ahead at this point. Turn on power supply, and let's go ahead and try to short those 2 pins. And we're still not getting anything there. So we're not getting anything on that board as far as power out. Let's go ahead and let me see if I can look at this a little closer. I'm going to move these GPUs out of the way for now. and I can even grab a different power supply if I do think I need one. But that power supply is generally working. The capacitor is a little tight back here. Let's check the pins. So we should be square top. Yeah, so that's correct connector there. But this system is refusing to start up. Yeah, so I can try to reseat the CPU. You know, there's a couple other things that, in theory, all you really need to get this system just to power up with the fan and everything is the power supply, the actual CPU connector, and then the 24 pin. Those are the two main connectors that you need for your system to at least turn on. You know, you shouldn't need a graphics card or anything connected, even though you won't get display out with this motherboard because it doesn't have any display out. And that might be something I'll try in just a second. I'm going to try to plug in a different connector. Let me go ahead and see. All right, let's try there. All right, I'm gonna try this. So I'm just gonna go ahead and try shorten pins, and nothing. All right, so nothing's still coming out from the system. So I can grab some different DDR3 just in case, and then we'll probably move to moving that CPU out. So let's try slot 4. So that's probably the second primary slot. And let's go ahead and take a look. There we go. Don't see anything. So the CMOS stuff was right under where this system had a lot of the moisture damage. So that might be what's going on. And we might have to try to clean that up a little more. But let's just try to fire this up one more time. And it's still nothing. Still nothing on those pins there. All right, let me think. So next, I would like to go ahead and just grab a different stick of RAM that's not related to any of their systems. So let me run over and grab some. I will be right back. Hopefully I don't disconnect with the audio. Let me just run into my storage room. I should have a bunch of RAM modules in here. There we go. Here we go. We've got some actual brand new DDR3, but I also have some old stuff I know that works. So let me just grab a single stick. Actually, I know this stuff works right here. Had this forever, this one stick, and I know it works. All right, let's go ahead and see if we can fire this up now. Nothing. Still nothing going through. So the system is not starting up. I don't believe the graphics card will be required for a system like this just because, you know, but we'll go ahead and just throw one in. I know this card works, so let's go ahead and throw that in just so we can get the system up and running. And just have a little bit of a crooked I/O plate, so it's a little tight. There we go. And let me grab a PCIe cable. There we go, and we just need a 6-pin connector. All right, so we don't really need any display out cables. I just want to turn this on. And I just realized I'm not gonna be able to reach those front panel connectors with it like that. Give me 1 second, let me go ahead and adjust this. So which one's the front panel? It should be red, no? Let's see, reset switch, power switch. Let's go ahead and see if we can get that in there. And we did, so that cable's in. And now we can use the front switch. And still nothing. I just tried a CMOS reset. Yeah, I'd probably go to the CPU last. I mean, the thing is there was moisture damage, that's the part that is the most concerning, because if the system stopped working, because the customer doesn't know exactly why the system was put away. It was like a family member system or something like that, so they weren't 100% sure. So it might just be moisture damage that motherboard, making it unusable, or unusable. All right, so that didn't work. All right, next option, let's go to a different RAM slot. Can't really open these RAM slots when they're, there we go. Let's try this one. Still nothing. It's like it's almost, and with that power supply making all that noise, that could also have taken things down at some point. All right, try right there. Power up. Nothing. All right, so GPU doesn't seem to be affected based on what I can tell. Let me go ahead and see. Actually, that cable looked a little loose. I think we're, yep, still on the same thing. Yeah, these type of things are just always a little tricky to know exactly what's going on. We might just go ahead and remove this, take this GPU out, and then once this is out, I will go ahead and we'll take that CPU out and just try to reseat it real quick. See if there's any damage around the socket, because if there is, you know, and if we do have the CPU out or the cooler off, it might be easier to get in here, try to clean things up, at least to a little bit of a better level. So let me go ahead and put that there. We'll move my spare power supply to the ground real quick, and let's go ahead and take this down to the back down to the CPU. All right. Yeah, sometimes in doubt, yeah, you got to go to the CPU. But anytime there's moisture involved, it makes things a little harder, and this is a really tight fit. Let me grab I love these little screwdrivers that come with Noctua coolers, because they're nice and they have just amount of length to reach down there. Oh my gosh, this is a really tight fit. See if I can guide it in. All right. Was the problem last time with the? Yeah, it actually was the problem last time. There was a socket issue, and that was because the system, it was like a build issue. So that was like a system that was, I believe, built, and it just wouldn't work right. That was the one with like the weird vertical artifacting, or weird artifacting in the Windows installation. Oh my gosh, this is a very tight cooler to get off. I don't know how long of a screwdriver they think you need for this. Let's see. Hopefully we can get this guy out. And we'll show a little more play with these other sides. All right, so this guy, pretty much done there. Get the top done, and then we got one more on this top left. I know who Linus Tech Tips is. I don't know him personally. All right, let's go ahead and take this guy out. And let's see, can I get to that bracket? Yes, I can. We're moving this old cooler off a little bit. Kind of helped. I do have their screwdriver. It's right here. But it actually didn't work for this situation, because it was the screwdriver wasn't long enough. All right, so we need the brackets. This is kind of a really weird mounting mechanism. You know, when when I got started in this industry, a lot of these type of coolers had already kind of gone away. So I've only installed maybe a couple of these. And the funny thing is I actually bought one of these. Bought one of these coolers for a video talking about, like, these were the most popular coolers people could buy for a while because they were super efficient with dispersion of heat because of all the different fins kind of running through these multiple heat pipes. So, can we get this guy off? Let's see if we can get it out with this now. Looks like it's not really going anywhere. Looks like it's just spinning actually. And we can actually get off without moving that one, just for now. But yeah, look how disgusting that cooler is. Oh my gosh. That thing is absolutely filled, like thermal paste. Oh, that's disgusting. Look how bad the CPU is. So can we get this cover off? I don't know why this thing is so, why it's so messed up. Normally it's just because it's not really. Just try going tighter. It's not spinning, it's like not catching at all. It's so heavy, I don't have to just, yeah, and that's what I'll probably do is, if these are heavy enough where you can just turn it on with it. Oh my God, yeah, it's very, this thing does not want to catch on. All right, let's try that. Come on. There we go. It's like it gets stuck. Come on. Just head out. All right, now we're on this corner here. All right. That is a terrible mounting system. Oh my gosh. I am so thankful for the mounting systems we have now. But look how disgusting that is right there. Let's get that cleaned up. Ooh. That's going to be it's going to need a lot of alcohol to get that one off. Let's go ahead and, look how bad that thermal paste is. Oh my gosh, it's so dark. I guess that's what happens. This probably never had the thermal paste changed. And I don't really know how old the system is exactly. They said probably 14 years old. So I'm guessing with them, we'll know just a second what CPU that is. Need a little bit of a flashlight. That is a Quad 2 Duo. Oh, is it Q9550? So can somebody look that up for me? So it's a Quad 2 Duo or Core 2 Quad Q9550. Sorry about that. But yeah, so somebody look that up. Let me know how old it is. And while you do that, we're gonna go ahead and just try to, do I have to take this whole bracket off? Hopefully not. There we go, yeah. Oh, that's not good. That thing just came right up with the socket cover. But let's look. Actual socket looked it still looks fine. So that's good. But this CPU, and I don't think the CPU probably has anything necessarily super wrong with it. I'm just thinking that whatever happened to this system that caused the moisture damage to occur, is probably what caused everything to happen. So yeah, again, guys, it's a Core 2 Quad Q9550. Somebody that wants to look that up, It'd be really helpful just to know how old this system actually is. Socket looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and just do a quick reseat. Let's just clean off the thermal paste on the cooler. We'll throw the cooler on and just try to turn it on temporarily with the external power supply. I don't know if it's 1151. I think this is 775. So this is, it's not, I don't think it's 1151. So just look up Core 2 Quad Q9550. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm thinking probably 2000, sometime between 2006 and 2009, if I'm to guess right, because the first i7s started coming out around 2009, I think, if I remember right. Yeah, LGA 775. I think that's, I'm pretty certain. Pretty certain it's that. All right. So what we're going to do is get everything connected. 2008. Well, so I was right. All right, let me try one other power supply just in case. Yeah. Yes, it is an Intel CPU. Sorry about that, if you guys didn't know. Any of those Core 2 quads, that was all Intel. And the funny thing was that those Core 2 quads and the Core 2 duos, sometimes you could get one of the quads and it would actually be slower for certain tasks than if you got the faster duo. So it's kind of an interesting lesson behind optimization of frequency on multi-core CPUs, and which is completely different to today, where everything is multi-core, and everything is actually multi-core focused too, with a lot of applications being able to utilize more than one core at a time, which was really not optimized for more than 2 cores for years. Let's just go ahead and just throw some thermal paste on it. Don't need anything besides just the weight of it. I think it was mounted this way. And go ahead and just plug in the fan header. All right, that's nice, heavy enough, like you said, to kind of just turn it on. And then let me go ahead and grab this towel out of the way and grab a power supply cable. All right, so I got that connected. And we're on, but still nothing there. Still nothing. So the reseat didn't really make a difference. What we can do now is we can try to do a little more cleaning to see if maybe that's what's causing the system to stop working. But if not, I'm going to assume it's probably a motherboard. And at that point, I need to see if I have anything at all that would be possible to be replaced with this at a reasonable price. Because that was the one thing. Customer didn't want to spend a ton of money. And if it is anything more than probably the power supply, it's going to be kind of expensive, especially getting an old motherboard like this that's still working today. So let me go ahead and let me grab a couple more things to try to clean it up, and we'll go from there. Yeah, these are pretty decent systems, but they're and those early i7s were pretty good. So if I cut out, give me 1 second. All right, so I grabbed some other things, and you guys can see me if you want. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some Q-tips with some isopropyl alcohol, try to clean up these remaining spaces, get in between some of these smaller spaces I just can't reach with my hands personally. So let's go ahead and try that. I'm going to remove the cooler so there's a little more room in here, and just try to clean up as much as I can, because I do believe the issue relies on whatever happened with this, whatever liquid was spilled on the system. And yeah, we're only going to probably spend so much time on this system just because the customer didn't want to spend a ton of money on this, and they said that if it's anything more than just like 1 or 2 things that just need to be swapped out, they don't really want to proceed, so we'll go ahead and follow their wishes, and we'll go from there. Yeah, that was pretty fast for back then. So let's go ahead and go up here. This is probably the main area that I originally saw, and we got a lot of it off. So this is just the top. I'm just trying to get in between some of the onboard components to go ahead and see if we can get a little bit of the grime off. So let me go ahead and switch you guys back down to the top view, and we can look over this a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and put a little isopropyl alcohol on there, and then we're just going to kind of wipe it onto these components that possibly could be possibly have some moisture damage. And you know, the thing is, if they're already damaged, there's not much you can really do without replacing them, and it's not practical on a board like this to do that. So that's kind of where we are a little limited here. So the thing is, there is a clear CMOS jumper here. So that's right where there's a bunch of other moisture damage. So that possibly could be why the system is behaving in the manner it is. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit of isopropyl alcohol right there. And we're gonna go ahead and just clean as much as we can around this area, right around the CMOS, and this is all probably BIOS information normally, and then all the stuff going into the chipset. So let's just see what we can get cleaned off. And then these RAM modules, or these RAM DIMM slots, those are also pretty dirty. Yeah, and that's still, but the problem is after that, and then you got to do a power supply, that's going to be pretty expensive. So that might be something we have to order, and that will be if that is the case, that'll be something I'll talk to the customer about afterwards. You know, and I can look up what these motherboards go for, but it'll be, I'm assuming it's not going to be very cheap. Anytime you're trying to buy something that's old, after it stops being made, it gets really expensive for a while, especially if you want something decent. They're still probably cheaper than when they were first being made, but they're not, it's not like it's a cheap item to replace by any means. Yeah, I mean, it's, yeah, so it looks, I mean, I'm assuming that whatever moisture was on here was enough to, because like the GPU too, and this is the other concern, is if these GPUs need to be replaced too, there'll probably be something that they stay away from. But that does not look like, that is not a good sign at all right there. If you just see that, it's just, this is all moisture damage, and you can kind of see the discoloration there. So I personally probably wouldn't replace, you know, the other one looks a little bit better, but there's still some signs of moisture. So let's see. All right, the system looks good. We really don't need to even have RAM in. We should be able to get at least an error code if things are working. And that's what I'm hoping for. I would love to hear the buzzer that's in there at least go off. So let me go ahead and just turn this on. So everything's dry, and still nothing starting up. Yeah. So yeah, you're probably going to be like probably $60 for a decent power supply, like a really on the low end. So it's kind of a hard one because this is such an old system, and it was just kind of just seeing, hey, can this be fixed? And that was kind of why I did it as a video like this, just to see if, you know, it was something that's practical to get up and running. Nope, still nothing there. So let's see. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we can go ahead and try. Let me look up this motherboard, and then we can see if this motherboard has something with like the CMOS jumper there. Normally it's like you move it over to the other two and you go from there. So let me go ahead and look up this model. Let's see, the hard part is I don't know if I'm going to have any information on this. So let's see, can I pull up? Let me go ahead and pull up this model. Yeah, so any other questions or anything you guys want to talk about with tech, let me know while I just look this up. And I'm more than happy to speak about them. So if you guys have any tech things you want to talk about, we can definitely, speak about it. Okay, let's see. All right, so we can try the CMOS jumper. So basically what you're gonna do is move it from these two over to these other ones. Normally you just let this sit for a couple seconds, probably like 15 to 30 seconds. And then you can go ahead and move back over. The thing is, removing the battery does the same thing. So that's why I'm not too certain on what that's gonna, how much that's gonna make a difference. And we'll go back to it and see if it goes back, it turns on. The odd thing is, I don't know what position 1 and 2 are, but most of the time it's usually on 1 and 2, and then you move it to 2 and 3, and then back to 1 and 2. So that's kind of odd, and I still haven't found that on this motherboard online. So let's see, E277. Let's take a look at this. What else we got here? This is normally how I look things up, just 2773 33-404D2. Let's go ahead and check that out. All right. Let me see. I have a feeling that I'm thinking that the moisture probably got on the motherboard and took down a number of the components, because it was bad. Because normally if moisture just gets at the top, it's fine, because maybe it kills a RAM or RAM stake or kills a DIMM slot. But when it comes all the way down here on the motherboard, because this was all moisture down here, and then you got the power supply right here, it's pretty concerning. So this is Intel's desktop board. So this was actually a first party board. Can we get a visual or support from Intel Arc? Or I think Arc was their, so Arc is their GPU line, but they also use an Arc system for their for the like history of CPUs and stuff like that. Let's see, do they have anything? Downloads, let's take a look. What I'm looking for here is just to see if they have any downloads for this board. Let's see, do they have anything? Downloads? Discontinuation. They have no support. Thank you so much, Intel. Alright, so there's not really any information on the board. But yeah, we'll go ahead and move this jumper back. I'm going to go ahead and try to fire it up. Yeah, it's not even trying to kick on. Yeah, there's nothing. So I'm going to assume in this circumstance, based on... Let me go ahead and get you guys over back to the main. So in this circumstance, with everything pretty much being, tested, and let me go and throw that off to the side. With everything being tested and going through, taking out the graphics cards which had moisture damage, swapping out the power supply twice, switching over to known good RAM, go ahead and reseating the CPU. I'm going to assume that because the system is just completely unresponsive, that we're dealing with a bad motherboard. And this is something that definitely can happen when you're talking about moisture damage. There was basically a sticky substance that ran down the entire board. And that's kind of sad in this situation because there's not really a lot that we can do about it, at least not today. I'll ask the customer if they want to replace the board and see if we can get a used board, but I doubt it. And the problem with that is, at this point, the system's probably going to end up being, recycled, because there's not a whole lot that can be done with it. And we'll see. I'll talk to the customer. They didn't want to spend a ton of money on it, so we're not going to go ahead and push them for anything. But I will explain kind of the situation with exactly how the system is responsive, where all the moisture damage is, swapped out every component. And the only thing, that I know that's more likely not to work. Probably maybe 1 or 2 of the DIMM slots. The CPU is probably fine, more likely than not, but that's never 100% when you have moisture damage. Power supply would have to be replaced, and probably the graphics card. So that's going to be a pretty expensive fix. So we'll talk to the customer, kind of explain the situation and kind of go from there. And if anybody has any other suggestions of what possibly could be going on here, please let me know. But from my experience in dealing with these computers all the time, especially these older systems, they're just normally in these circumstances, and you got moisture damage, you're going to be looking at a bad motherboard. And that could have been from either the power supply being bad. That could have also been from the it could be basically from the moisture or from the power supply, or a combination of the two. And with all that said, we're probably just gonna go ahead and give the customer a call as soon as we wrap this up, and then we'll see what they want to do, and we'll go from there. I do plan on, I do have, all CPUs are cheap. Yes, exactly. So as you're right, you're completely right about that. Old CPUs are generally cheap, but old motherboards can be very expensive. And that's why I've actually bought a bunch of old CPUs for videos and stuff, just because they're not very expensive. I do have a GPU test bench that I would be happy to throw those on. However, I wouldn't do that until if the customer wants to replace that motherboard, because that's going to need to be done first. And at that point, the GPU will have to decide at that point. So, I'm assuming one of the GPUs is probably fine. The first one that was in the slot 1 is probably gone. There was a lot of moisture. The second one, there wasn't a lot of signs of moisture on the PCB, but there was a little bit on the front. There's a little bit here that kind of looks like possible moisture damage. Let me go ahead and switch you guys over to the top view. And so this one here looked a lot better. There's a little bit of discoloration on this side of the board, and it is very sticky. So that's the only reason I'm kind of concerned about this one. And there's a little bit of the sticky residue right on top, but it's not nearly as bad as this guy, which was in the first slot, which looks like where everything got completely dumped on. So it's probably some kind of soda. That's usually what these are, some kind of juice or something like that. Something with sugar, and that's usually where you get this discoloration. So with all that said, guys, let me go switch you over to the front view. We're gonna probably be wrapping up. As at this point, looks like the system is just gonna need a new motherboard. So we're gonna go ahead, contact the customer, see what they want to do, and if they do want to get a new motherboard, we'll go ahead and make a follow-up video or a live video going ahead and finishing that transition over to the new motherboard, as I'm not going to have anything this old on hand, so that'll be something we'll have to buy used. So thank you guys all so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys coming out. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get this system up right away, but we will get this up if possible, and if that's the case, I'll definitely let you guys know. And I really appreciate each and every one of you for being here, and I'll see you guys in the next live stream. All right.